Welcome to the GTM Dialogues podcast. GTM Dialogues is a platform built to support B2B startups on their journey to scale. We have a simple mission, and that's to help founders to make a bigger impact. We're proud to have a community today of over 1,000 founders who are part of our network. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale, this is the place to learn, connect, and grow. Join us here on the podcast or at one of our live events as we talk to top industry experts, we share insights, and we guide you through your go-to-market journey. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the GTM Dialogues podcast, where we meet GTM leaders and we dive into GTM strategy and GTM execution. Today, we've got a fantastic guest. We've got Srikrishna Swaminathan from Factors.ai, a startup founder that I have known for a while, and I am very excited to get you on the show. Welcome, Sri.
Thanks a lot for hosting me, Chris. It's been great knowing you from it's almost 3 years, I think, since we have known.
3 years, yeah.
Since we have known you, and in essence, you have seen our own growth journey. So from the outside, so it's like happy to connect and happy to share our learnings and also what we do. Thanks.
Awesome. Do you want to maybe start with just a quick intro on yourself and Factors for anyone who sadly isn't familiar yet?
Of course, Sri here. I was born and brought up in Chennai, then college in Bangalore, did a MBA from IIM Calcutta, and then post that I had dabbled around FMCG and investment banking for a couple of years before I joined InMobi in 2013. InMobi was a very special journey. It was India's first unicorn way back in 2013, and I think they were one of the first companies which got funded by SoftBank. Now we have more than 100 plus unicorns now, and I stayed there for 7 years. I was leading founded and led overall our DSP and affiliate business, which was more than $100 million plus P&L, which was there, and part of the executive team before moving out to start with Factors.ai. Both InMobi and my college played a great role in my founding journey. Praveen Das, who's my other co-founder, worked with me at InMobi. So he was heading on the product side, data product side. So we met at InMobi and then decided to start up. While Aravind, who's my other co-founder, was my college classmate from RV College. Later, he was at Google and then sold his first startup to Freshworks. And he came out. That's how we all come together. So we are a 3-member founding team. Overall, Factors.ai now is 50 plus team, which is there. It's been almost a little over 4 years since we started up. We started right in the middle of the first pandemic, and it's been 4 years. And what we solve for primarily is like AI-powered GTM, go-to-market for B2B companies. So primarily our buyer personas or our target companies is B2B. Within these B2B companies, we help them understand the complete buyer journey end-to-end, right? From start of top of the funnel in terms of ads to the website to all the way to the CRM. Understand which are the key signals which are affecting their buyer journeys, then using those signals to build audiences and activating campaigns directly either on the marketing side or into email and SDR workflows on the other side so that we can drive pipeline. So our value prop to companies is like we drive more pipeline efficiently. And now at 300 plus customers, we are at a very significant growth stage. So we grew almost 6x over the last 1.5 years and poised to grow further as well with large partnerships with both LinkedIn and G2 and more to come as well. That's
very exciting. Do you want to just quickly take us through the product journey? I mean, because I'm sure like 4 years ago, we weren't saying you're AI powered, your revenue.
Actually, we did AI powered, but the one thing which we learned is like we looked at it as the initial first thing is like we started as an analytics product primarily. So in a sense, like we felt marketers don't have a specific analytics product like product teams have. So our backgrounds from InMobi in mobile ad tech, we saw 2 things. One is like mobile ad tech was one fast growing and had a heavy product analytics use cases like Amplitude or a branch or the likes of Adjust.io or a Mixpanel was heavily used. Second, they also had multiple channels and a constant optimization in terms of their campaigns. This is something which we found very clearly absent on the B2B side, where, of course, the revenue is pretty heavy, but at the same time, the rigor in terms of analytics wasn't there. And we thought like B2B will follow B2C eventually. So if we start building on that plan, we have a very significant growth path, which is there. So hypothesis overall was very clear and we built as an analytics. So AI-powered analytics for B2B marketers is how we started off. But then we realized like B2B marketers, given the journey is very long, there is no immediate gratification. And also there are a lot of multiple touch points selling to a buyer group. Instead of just analytics, taking action on the analytics makes a lot of sense. So that's where we basically changed the positioning. The underlying product remains the same, but basically how we serve and what we serve, etc., changed. And we became a more of an AI-powered go-to-market solution or a pipeline generation platform rather than just an analytics platform, while the core is analytics. But the good part is since we built ourselves as an analytics product, which is basically having a unified data structure across multiple channels and data points, which is there, and then seeing patterns within this data and user journeys to then activate campaigns. We were structurally built very clearly to build real-time audiences and also having real-time feedback loops on what is working, what's not working. So the overall product worked far better in terms of the action because you had a very, very good core data structure on how you were building the product, which I said. That was something which I would say like a very, you couldn't lucky, but it's more like we were built for the success which we see here was built on the basis of the analytics product which we built earlier, because it was a far better analytics product built for B2B companies using as an account level, not just at a user session level. We were able to replace or do much better than Google Analytics for B2B companies, and then build on top of that to take action on that data which is there. So from AI powered analytics, we went into AI powered go to market, but that's the journey within the same base.
Very interesting. As buyers, we know how complex our buying journeys are, but often when it comes to managing our own marketing or sales, we want to say, okay, who was the last touch on this lead? All right, that definitely, this big opportunity came from that ebook download. That's the source of the opportunity. Like because it's because the technology in the past hasn't allowed that type of more complex, I guess, attribution or modeling of what are the different touch points and how are they influencing the deals as they move through.
Yes. And as we realize, since you've made a very clear point, because it's a lot of buyers within a group, even if you decide to buy a product that needs to be InfoSec approvals, there needs to be finance approvals in the same thing. And any deal takes 6 to 8 months to close, right? From the first time of like awareness of a product to awareness of a solution to how with this thing. This is one of the reasons where like also it's not just the journeys which matter, how you action on the journeys also matter. So for example, one of our clients, how they use the product is they see a product in terms of journeys. They see which companies are there into their MQL phases or post-lead phases when their evaluation phases which are there. Then they create a segment of those companies which are in a deal evaluation phase, push it into LinkedIn ads and show ads to very clear CFO titles and procurement people titles. Because what they want to do is while the buyer persona is the customer success team and they are, or the onboarding team which they are buying the product for, but the key decision makers in terms of procurement and finance lie elsewhere. So the deal is basically qualified and it's in the process, but I can take this audience and immediately push ads to them. Now, when they see ads, they can also see a lot more parallelly. They'll also start doing their email, this thing in terms of nudges to saying that close the deals and other thing. Together, they're able to close the deal faster. So the problem is not just attribution, but when you see the journey, when you see there are multiple touch points and you need to lobby at different levels to do it, you are able to automate those lobbying very, very fast and then fast track the deal. And any deal, let's say, I don't think any enterprise would complain for like instead of a deal closing in 8 months, if it can close in 5.5 months, it's far better rather than far more meetings and the deal stretching on and the budget's not getting approved, etc. That's one use case. Second use case is like you also see data from multiple other segments. For example, we work very closely with G2. Companies which are looking at G2 alternatives and have also on your website or have replied the thing become very good solid candidates for you to run email campaigns to and a LinkedIn messaging campaign. So you don't send your email list to generally all set of companies which come in your ICP. You differentiate by which company has actually shown intent at a certain level, and then you use that signal to back your this thing. So in a sense, like now you have data in terms of like deals are never going to close within a week or 2 weeks or something. It's always going to take time, but you have data on like what kind of nudges in terms of marketing you need to do at different points in time in the buyer journey so that you actually reactivate. And it can also be for like close loss deals. Because there have been so many cases where like even for our own case, like a company, a large enterprise, which wanted to talk to us in May, for some reason the deal didn't go through, they chose another partner, then they have another use case when they're coming back in October or November. It happens because this is now they want to decide on platforms which they want to decide for the next year, they want to allocate budgets for this. So the whole process of B2B buying is very interesting for the lack of better word, given that it's this thing, which means it also moves beyond just analytics to a lot more taking actions or interventions, which the marketer can do. So it's like playing a video game for the marketer, saying that, okay, this thing came, that thing came, like a Age of Empires, where like now I need to push my this force is here, or I want to buy a wheat farm or something like that.
Right. If we can just take a look at your own GTM,
Yeah.
you're obviously like your first few sales are you going out and selling. I mean, I'm sure you're still heavily involved in going out and selling. Do you want to just talk a bit about your own GTM development over time? Looking at things like outbound, inbound
Mhm.
events, some of the different channels. What is it that's worked for you, and how is it different today than say
So
a
we had
year,
a
2 years ago?
very interesting journey. So as when we started with analytics and large analytics products get paid well and we wanted to go enterprise, we had 30, 35 customers, but we also found from a founder to GTM fit, which is there, which is very important, where like, okay, selling large enterprise deals specifically to a certain small set of companies, which is there, and that too with the analytics and also the amount of servicing which is required for that kind of a product is something which is not a fit. So what we basically changed it is like moved it back into an inbound based motion where we start doing Google ads and our own LinkedIn ads and emails and other things. So that's inbound, but it's a little more lower ACV and faster sales cycles, which is it. So that was a transition which we did in our GTM over the last 2 years. And that gave us the whole ideas into not just one, the whole account intelligence part, and we started dogfooding our own product, which is how we started. Is like we wanted to see which companies are coming to our website, because the great thing about B2B is like nobody randomly visits your website. I'm not cricking for Netflix or a Hotstar where people will just come in and check. Anyone who has the time to come and check out Factors Today, pricing page, or our blogs, etc., and spending time is mostly a prospect who's looking for a tool like Factors Today, which is that. So, which is a great filter to know, like uh, whoever is coming to your website is has a high intent. And what you need to do at your end is like if there are 100 visitors, there are only 2 or 3 people signing up, which means who are the other 97? So identifying which companies they are and among them who are your ICP and then filtering like which are the ones which are showing intent has a huge value. So what we started with our basic GTM is like trying to check who's coming to your website, have a very clear Slack alerts on like whenever someone who's interesting to us is coming, immediately have a Slack alert and then use the Slack alert immediately to have an outbound email campaign or then eventually we started into a LinkedIn campaign. Second thing which we parallelly do this for the same set of accounts which are coming and showing interest on us, generally retargeting, whether you're doing in both Google and LinkedIn, works at a user level, but B2B is a buyer group level. So even though I know a user from a particular company came, what I used to do is we used to identify those companies, identify all the buyer personas in that company and run LinkedIn ads to them. So for example, if someone from CleverTap looked at our product, we know someone from Bombay in CleverTap has looked at a product, but we sell to the demand generation, but the executive sponsor would be the CMO. We would basically make sure we take the data and show ads to all of them in the marketing team so that it builds the internal confidence about the product. So this is the first way how we started with the product. What we also realized is manually taking out account data, then identifying email IDs, either it's an Apollo or Lucia or Easy Leads, depending on this thing, and then sending emails is like there is a lot of drop-offs there and it also takes a lot of time. Then we figured out automated workflows there, which is called the AI SDR product currently, where like we know which companies are showing intent, but automatically once you know which companies which are in ICP showing intent, you can enrich them with your contact information like email IDs and LinkedIn profiles, etc., and immediately push them into a sequence like a smart lead sequence or an instantly sequence or an Apollo sequence. That's something. So that automatically created an automated pipeline engine. That is like every day, every hour, visitors are visiting your website. Take the data, automatically push them into your sequences, which are anyways pre-written. And only when there is a reply, the SDR actually steps in. So in a sense, we are basically kind of like acting as a co-pilot to the SDR or doubling his productivity, saying that you focus on selling better or finding better ways to multi-thread this conversation or call or other thing. We focus on sending those emails and other thing. And that really helps. So we didn't hire a lot of SDRs, but by doing this automation, we were able to generate a lot of leads. Then came the second level of, as we progressed in terms of scale, we moved from some 30, 35 customers to 100 plus customers. What we also realized is both Google and Outlook has started kind of like looking at spam filters and a lot of emails were going into promotion. Email inboxes warming up has become a huge problem. So email as a sense is like people were kind of withdrawing from it in terms as a marketing channel. Then we discovered like you can also run LinkedIn messaging connects to it. So we take that LinkedIn is great, like you know which company and which contact to reach out. But the problem is you don't know whether that company and that contact has high intent. Because I can reach out to all marketers, B2B marketers in India, but I'll rather reach out to all B2B marketers in India within that subset who are actually showing intent, who have visited my website. Because already there is a brand recall there. So what we did is we started doing LinkedIn automation. So we partnered with firms like HeyReach or a Sales Robo and a couple of others where like we identify companies, identify who are the key contacts within that company automatically, get their LinkedIn profiles, and automatically send a LinkedIn request and a LinkedIn connection message. What this happens is like while parallelly the email goes, there is a much better chance of a LinkedIn connection request getting accepted. LinkedIn messages also don't land in spam. So there's a good chance if it's a marketer, and marketers are generally active on LinkedIn for them to see the message. So that was the second stage of like where we were able to nudge on the LinkedIn thing. Parallelly, we also had a huge amount of, as I said about the inbound listening, we started our ads campaigns. So that was from last year itself, early last year, where like we significantly invested in ad campaigns, both Google ads, then eventually LinkedIn ads to run the same. When you're small, it's very easy to run Google competitor search ads. And you can identify competitors, you can make very clear landing pages and run targeted campaigns around it and then convert. But inbound conversion is just only a small percentage of it. If there are 100 PPC clicks, 5% or maybe 8% will convert. But remaining 92% is also high end. Nobody is actually going to search for an account de-anonymization software, come all the way to my website, but not sign up. Identifying, so we loop back, identifying which companies are coming through these keywords, but not signing up. Then push them into a LinkedIn email campaign, which is the same loop. Instead of just high intent based on website activity, we also use the search keyword terms and other thing and then built around. That was our initial GTM push, which is there. It's for you to be concentrated, maybe I would say fairly 6 stars for them to actually focus and do work, which is there. So hence, you need to prioritize and optimize. So hence the intent and where it comes to. One more thing is like humans, energy is also very important. And energy, one of the easiest ways for energy to get dissipated is like you do grunt work. In a sense, getting that account, getting email IDs, identifying who's there on LinkedIn, whether they are on LinkedIn or not, what they are acting on LinkedIn, etc. Then pushing that into an email sequence or even writing your personal listing is like a lot of painful task if you're doing it something like 25 to 30 companies per day or even 20 companies per day. If we are able to, when we were able to automate that, the energy from the SDR side is automatically doubled or even tripled. Because it's like, okay, I like selling. I'm here because I like to sell. I like to write a personalized email or I like to write something to tell value to this customer in a language he will understand. I don't want to spend time on prioritizing, building account lists, and also nurturing all this data and pushing it to this one place. Second thing this also helped us, as we also discovered, is we can also take this data and push it into your dialers. Say that your email is already sent. Your LinkedIn connection request is also already sent. Don't worry about it. The first email is sent. If he replies, you can then take over from the second email. First email is anyway standardized with a certain thing. But now you can actually call him. So it basically unwound a lot of time for them to call. And call is where the real human selling happens. Because you are able to tell, like saying that, hey, you're from here, it's great to see your journey, this is what I'm saying, can I have your 3 minutes? And you have to be able to do that, let's say for 30, 40, 50 calls on a daily basis. If you should be able to do that, your energy should be conserved from you doing the emails and other this. So in essence, we were doubling or tripling the SDR productivity, which is there, so that they were able to get inbound. And one more thing is inbound. So the outbound also serves as a feed for your inbound. Because if more and more companies are able to hear you or getting your emails, when they see the ad, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Google, etc., it also creates an immediate brand recognition. It also creates inbound. And inbound, on the other hand, also creates outbounds down the line. Because some people see your ad and come to your website, you can create outbound on that. So this inbound-outbound mix is something which we were able to figure out. It's not independent. It's actually a conjoined mix, which is there, which we need to work on both sides, is what we figured out and what we were able to scale. Thankfully, that's what we were also selling to our customers.
Yeah, it works really well together. I like your point about the energy, because I know it can be so demotivating for an SDR to do all of this manual enrichment and researching the people, developing personalized things, and as you said, trying to do that to 20, 30, 40 accounts, and then you just don't get replies. And because as an SDR, when you research people, you start actually feeling there's some connection. I mean, I know I can help this person. I can see the problems that they're having. They're talking about it on LinkedIn, and then they just don't respond on the emails, and that's very demotivating. So as you said, if the AI can pick up a lot of that grunt work, it definitely allows you to focus your energy on the the things that have a better chance of success. But I think the cold calling, the picking up the phone and ringing people as well. I don't know if you'd call it cold calling if they visited your website. It's not purely
I would
cold.
say it's warm calling.
It's warm. It's warm, and the response rate as well. Like if I've gone and spent time looking through someone's website and someone from that company calls me the next day, at least I know the company. Like
Yeah.
it's not like I'm like, where are you from? I don't know that company. It's like it's no longer a really cold call, because the person at least understands that, you know, you're calling from a company that's somewhat of interest to them at the moment. So I think even
Yeah.
your, you know, response rates are better. And again, that energy, like as an SDR, cold calling people who are like, you know, why are you calling me? How did you get my
Yeah.
number? You know, don't call me again, I'm busy. Versus someone who at least recognizes your company name and what it is that you're doing and is interested in a chat. It builds your energy rather than draining your energy.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and I'm happy that more companies are starting to recognize this idea of touch points, that you know, we know that many of our prospective customers are not in market right now. You know, they're either with a competitor, they're using a different piece of software, or whatever the pain point we're trying to solve right now just isn't a big enough pain point for them. They have other things
Yeah.
that are their bigger fish to fry right now. But what we want is that when this becomes a pain point for them, which could be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, now we're at the top of their mind. We're one of those, you know, top 2, 3, 4 companies that they proactively reach out to, saying, you know, hey, can we talk about your product and how it can solve our problem? And
Mm.
from that mindset, you know, many of these touch points, even if they're not successful, you know, if you have an SDR call to someone and you chat about the product and they say like, oh, okay, right now we're not looking at it, let's be in touch in the future, you know,
Mhm.
an older mindset would be like, well, that was a failed call. Like they didn't
Yeah.
instantly agree to a meeting, so the data's worthless, the leads are worthless, it's not going anywhere. But
Yeah.
you know, when you're able to look back in the future at the data around your deals and say, okay, great, this deal just closed, look at the 50, 100 different touch points, from
Yeah.
calls, from website visits, from ad impressions, from G2 research, from, you know, Google ad clicks, from you know, everything that have led along that. It gives you a lot more confidence in your process of marketing, that
Yeah.
the activities that you're doing, you know, as long as you're connecting successfully with your target audience and you're educating them about your product, that compounds over time. You know, it's like when you go to a trade show and there's, you know, like 500 booths from different
Yeah.
brands, and it's important, you can't talk to everyone, and you know, it just becomes this blur of logos and messaging, and but certain brands will jump out. Like, you know, your eyes will scan a row of like 20 stalls, and a couple
Mhm.
of them will just suddenly kind of like jump forward in your mind. And those are the ones where you've seen them before. You've seen the
Yeah.
brand enough times. You've got some idea about what they do.
Yes.
You've maybe visited the website. You've done some research. And that's really the power of brand in B2B. Like we often
Yeah.
say, oh, but brand is useless. You know, it's
Yeah.
just about generating leads and sales. But you know, if you get an email from someone at Google saying like, you know, hey, you know, Google's got an interesting proposition for you, can we meet? They'll probably get a fantastic response rate.
Correct.
You know, if you're at an event and there's a big Google stall, most people will go and wander over to it to see what's there.
What's-
Um,
Or a very
and
simple
the
thing. If you,
same
yeah,
thing works at a smaller scale.
smaller scale, or it's like one thing which also happens is like, how do you generate brand interest for a particular account?
Mm.
See, in B2B, the difference in B2C is like there are few super large brands. If you think cola, there are only two or three for you to look at.
Yep.
If you think shoes, there are only two or three for you to look at. Nike, Adidas, and other things. But in B2B, when you're there, it's not something like you're buying for a company, you're not buying for you personally.
Mm.
I know there are one or two brands, but there are also other brands which has this thing. So when I'm starting to my buying journey, which is there, I can actually create the brand awareness with marketing and specifically LinkedIn ads and other thing, and then come back. And what we have started doing is, which is the third part of our product, which is also there, is like you said 1500 touch points, and this is how the deal converted, which is that we see what is this thing. Then we are able to start giving predictions. Companies which just did these XYZ actions and these are things, there is a much larger set. This set is the ones which are most likely for you to convert. So, for example, in our own tests, which we are doing, like companies which come with our predictions in terms of like these are the ones which are more likely, are more 5x more likelier to convert in a form fill compared to those who don't, which are from a general overall list. So this is like a huge value, both for a marketer and from a GTM perspective, because like now you know, some companies kind of like start acting or showing interest with certain touch points. How well you intervene in them so that you convert them faster, but more importantly, convert more of them. Because any funnel is like if there are 100 companies showing interest, 20 or 30 will actually fill up a form, 4 or 5 will get into a pipeline to convert, which is there. how do you actually generate, maybe instead of 30, it can actually be 50. Instead of 4 or 5, can it be 10? Kind of this thing. That is the very clear kind of a marketing process which is there. And this also syncs directly into the sales process also, like how do you generate the pipeline faster?
I think what it also does for a marketing team getting access to that data is it allows you to start having, I think, maybe more direction to form these hypotheses. Like as you say, like as you start running campaigns and you're able to look at the deals that win, the deals that didn't win, deals that move faster, deals that move slower, and starting to see things in the data. At the moment, the company might be thinking, okay, so we've got to make ebooks, we've got to make case studies, we've got to make data reports, we've got to do a newsletter, we've got to do, we have to do everything.
Yeah.
And if you can start seeing, what are the things that maybe helped deals to move faster? People who downloaded at least 3 case studies closed faster than people who didn't. Now, at least the marketing team has that idea. Okay, we're going to see if we can scale this. If we can get more of our prospects to download at least 3 case studies, do we see more deals closing faster? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe and that. But at least you can start running, I guess, more structured experiments, and then being able to look back in 6 months and validate, did it work out the way that you thought it would? In your own marketing, using this approach, or with customers that you're working with, how does it change the metrics that people are managing? Because if you think otherwise, maybe it's just MQL, SQL closure, something like that.
Yeah.
But now that you've got all of these additional data points, what are some of the things that you would now have on like your marketing dashboard that you try and monitor on an ongoing basis?
So we do our insights dashboard very, very clearly take, like, you can take segment of accounts which are exposed to a certain set of ads. And we are able to see, earlier we were thinking that customers generally look for MQL, SQL. Then we added revenue and pipeline, and we thought it's pretty revolutionary because we are talking about revenue and pipeline numbers not there. Now we have added sales velocity metrics as well. Okay. For example, what is the closure rate for companies which are exposed to this LinkedIn campaign? So we can take a set of companies. We have, let's say, 50,000 companies, but within this 5,000 have seen our LinkedIn ads, this particular campaign. One, what is the pipeline? What's the SQL? But more importantly, what is the kind of closure rate for these companies? Second, what is the average sales cycle for these companies? Third, what is the average customer value for this company? Because these are all sales velocity metrics. Now I can take this and compare this with the previous period. So I can say campaign A ran for 6 months. How does it compare month on month on all these metrics? Second is campaign A versus campaign B within LinkedIn. So I ran 2 campaigns and it went into different sets of accounts which is there, but both of them is my ICP. But it's a kind of a controlled testing, A/B testing, without actually kind of taking a control group and then doing other thing, where you can say, like, it's my ICP. Within my ICP, I can split it into 2 parts, show one set of ads to one set of one part which is there, show another set of ads and see how they performed over a period of 6 months in terms of pipeline. Second, what we are also able to do is like compare this with other channels like paid or organic or events and other things. Third is where the incremental impact comes in. So we can say like companies which have shown LinkedIn versus companies which have been shown Google and LinkedIn ads. Companies which have attended our G2 Live in Bangalore versus the same companies which have attended G2 Live and have been shown LinkedIn ads or have had an email outreach. So we are taking data from CRM to see which all companies we have seen email outreach plus which all companies have something. Does this have a better impact? Does this increase in number of leads? Does it increase in pipeline? Does it increase in better closure rates? For example, some of the interesting results which we have come in is like, when you show LinkedIn ads to companies which have come to your website through Google search, the average sales cycle reduces by 25 to 30%. It's the same set of accounts you are targeting, but you are able to reduce the sales cycle. So when you are deciding to say that I spent $5,000 on Google ads and I spent $3,000 on LinkedIn, should I spend any $3,000 on LinkedIn because my last click attribution shows all the data comes from Google? We come back and say, no, LinkedIn actually helps to reduce your sales cycle. It's the same set of accounts. LinkedIn basically influences you to reduce your sales cycle, which is there. One more thing which you're also saying is like on G2. Companies which are on G2 or which have seen your G2 profile and have also seen your Google ads or something, is the ACV high? So then it comes back to us saying that if you increase your G2 reviews, one lot more of your prospects see your G2 pages, or if you use G2 in your ads, it also helps your companies compare you as a reviewed or a kind of like authorized kind of a company which is there. It helps you sell higher. You won't be selling the same 8K ACV, you're able to sell 11K ACV, which is there. And when this kind of data actually goes back into the marketing system, this is the kind of dashboard which we have. So where you can compare with segments and compare with activities which is there, then it basically comes back into a kind of a holistic marketing management rather than a kind of like, I just hope for rains or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. What advice do you have? So, a lot of what we're talking about is this very integrated marketing and sales
Yeah.
approach, where there's a lot of usage of data. Looking at, and it's marketing not just at the beginning, but it's marketing throughout the sales process.
Yeah.
In your company, because you're the co-founder, you've obviously been able to do a lot of these things right from the start. What sort of advice would you have for CMOs or marketing leaders where currently their company is in that kind of almost like that waterfall mode? Marketing generates a lead, the lead goes to sales, after that
Yeah.
marketing's not involved, and making that transition really requires a very different relationship between marketing and sales.
Yeah.
Any advice you can give to marketing teams of how do they start building that?
So one thing is like, one, even without buying any tool and other the thing, you can do this analysis in a sense of like manual heuristic models, where like you can say like check data like X campaign to Y campaign, how it affected over a period of time. You have to take the CRM data, you have to take another set of data and then do that analysis. Because primarily, if they don't get into measurement back into sales and revenue, it wouldn't just lead to bad marketing choices or spends, which is there. It will also lead to a lot of power deficiency in terms of like how marketing can project itself, in a sense, both not just with sales, but more fundamentally with finance, because you are asking money for campaigns, you are asking money for activities. And what would also do is like incentives drives behavior, right? So this kind of, if you're not doing this measurement, what will actually incentivize us? Like it will incentivize the marketers to actually do for shortcuts. So they will try to spend on third-party publisher channels to collect email IDs, which is there. So it will be like so many leads and so much email ebooks or some leads which are, did it actually work? No. They'll try to do something like sponsorship in booths so that they can meet a lot of people. And then they'll put it as like, we built a booth, there are a lot of prospective customers, it's in Salesforce, Dreamforce, we spend 150K. It's up to the sales teams to convert. And the AEs will be like haggling around trying to figure out, like they'll be kind of like have a coffee shop and clicking on scanning images and other this thing. It's not going to lead to any leads in the first place.
Yep.
This thing. So you actually drive better incentive-based outcome. And this is something which I would really request founders, CFOs, and CMOs to actually look at, saying that, okay, can we measure better so that we can drive better kind of incentives and also better outcomes? More importantly, so that we are oriented towards the right KPI goals rather than just generating leads or generating this thing. That's the first part. Second part is like the good part with both AI and also with the way how software has actually been built is like earlier buying something like a Adobe Measure or a Telium's CDP or this thing used to be a 70K, 100K, 150K investment. Now it's actually come down to something around like 7 to 8K kind of an investment. It's just there. And even when you take a trial and all this thing, it's far lesser. When you're spending something like 200, 300K in marketing budgets, this is basically like barely 2 to 3% of your ad spends, which is there for you. And this is at a lower end for you to even see kind of like where you're going, how you're going, and having a kind of a like. So that is what I would request for this or CMOs to look at.
It's great advice. With your own tech stack, like your own marketing tech stack within your company, other than your own tool, other than Factors, are there any other tools that you want to call out? I mean, things that you find really valuable?
Oh, yes, of course. One is like we found Clay very valuable. We run Clay playbooks. So Clay plus ChatGPT playbooks is something which we run. So we take intent data from Factors, push it into Clay to data enrich, and then push it into ChatGPT to create multiple messaging which are non-spam and other this thing, and push them into routing this thing. We use Lagrowth Machine and HeyReach, which is fundamentally for running LinkedIn automation campaigns, which is there, so that we actually parallelly run that. Of course, I wouldn't talk about the standard, which is like HubSpot and other this thing. Specifically in certain kind of geographies and other this thing, we have found Easy Leads to be very good for India for doing calls.
Yeah.
Which is there. So because it's like that's the other route where we have to push for calling and other this thing. And we are great believers in both LinkedIn and G2.
Cool. All right. Final question. So for anyone who's heard all of this, they're fascinated by the idea of Factors. Who is Factors ideal for? What type of companies should really look at kind of coming and evaluating the product?
So when I look at my own 300 set of plus customers, which are there, primarily it's SaaS and technology services companies. And even within them, companies which find the maximum value are those who start spending on LinkedIn ads, or companies which are of like starting to work with the G2 intent plan. which is there. They are the ones which are the most ideal fit because they are at a certain level. Like when you're using G2 intent plan, you have more than 100 reviews. When you're spending on LinkedIn ads, you have at least an ad budget of 400, 500K per year, which is there. You have achieved product market fit, and you're going at this kind of a market, which is there. These are the ideal set of customers, which are very clearly ideal for something like Factors.ai. But more importantly, since we have gone through the whole journey ourselves, in terms of like one of the reasons why we even found out this kind of a product and this kind of a data is like we as a young startup, when we are spending money, we are thought like money is going waste and we have to see what kind of companies are coming to your website, how to take action on them. So we actually offer a very clear free plan, lifetime free plan, where like up to 200 companies, most startups can actually start using our product. Then beyond the first level, even if they want a basic plan where they just want to do account scoring and a little bit of like identifying accounts and running workflows, they can take our basic plan so that it makes it more easier for them to have a very efficient go to market, especially from SDR. And that's something which we do. And lastly, most importantly, we have a very strong customer success team. We offer actual kind of like GTM advice in terms of helping them set up workflows, helping them understand what their unique use cases are, and then building around it. And we have also made a network of marketing and sales consultants, where like we advise you to do these things. This is how you use the product, but we also have this empanel list of partners who are there. You can consult with them and take with them so that one, they work with Factors companies at a discounted rate. Second, they can really help you with like how do you set up your email campaigns, or how do you set up your marketing campaigns, or how do you measure. Why this is very, very important is like now email setup, it's not just the same thing like earlier where like you need to warm up inboxes. You need to have multiple inboxes in terms of domains, how you actually differentiate spam rates, bounce check, data checks, which is demarc checks, which is there. It's a lot of technical thing which is there. You need people to set up.
Very technical.
Something like a Clay or an Apollo workflow will take a long time to even understand for them to do. So they need Clay experts. Setting up campaigns like LinkedIn, as you might have seen, like when you do your LinkedIn audits, like a lot of companies just turn on third-party audiences, waste a lot of money. It needs a marketing consultant to help them set up campaigns. Even very simple things like landing pages. So we actually offer that help through our empaneled consultants as well, so that they can actually work with them rather than hiring full-time, which they wouldn't be able to hire and other things while they actually use the product.
Awesome. Sri, thank you so much for your time today. And this has just been a sort of a flood of fantastic ideas and wisdom from marketing. Fantastic having you on the podcast. I would encourage anyone listening to go and follow Sri on LinkedIn. You post a lot of really great content. You sort of both a combination of sort of building in public, but also sharing insights about what other companies are doing around their sort of modern GTM, AI revenue sort of approach. So fantastic having you on the podcast.
Sure.
Best of luck with Factors for the year ahead. And
thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.